Hello, everyone. Welcome to Applied Information's session on how to use reports. It's going to be exciting stuff. Just going to walk you through quite a few slides. So get ready, get your pens and papers out, and take good notes.
Yeah, so today, Chris, could you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that Jess Shin's helping us today on the broadcast. You've seen her on previous broadcasts. And as well, that was Chris Holloway that was also talking about what we're going through today. A little bit of an overview about what we're going to be sharing today. Obviously, today's topic is about reports. So we're going to start with reports, and we're going to transition into more reports today. So obviously today's session is all about that. We're going to spend some time talking about on-demand reports and how to pull those up and some of the values in knowing how to use those and answering some questions. There is commonly questions that Chris and I and a number of us have where people call us and ask us, something happened. Why did that happen? And we're going to kind of address that today in the way that we're going to be talking about reports. We're going to spend some time talking about school beacon reports. Many of you that have been on these sessions before have seen some of those, but we'll talk about some of the circumstances and some of the things that the reports will offer you some value. We're going to jump into some live glance applications and again deal with some of the common questions and tasks. We're going to give you some information about how to utilize some of the intersection reports and spend a little bit of time towards the end of our session on preemption reports. Chris is going to jump in at the end and show some situational things there, as well as some information on the driver feedback reports. And then, of course, the favorite part at the end is to talk about some of the Q&A things that we're going to do. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Applied Information. Applied Information is a technology company that's bridging our technology across school beacons and traffic signal cabinet communications, preemption, and TSP priority. And this is all supported by our Travel Safely app. So it's an important part about what we're doing in bridging all the things, all the services and applications that are a part of what we do. From a physical perspective, the boxes on the left-hand side is our communications platform that allows us to deploy these devices in field locations and communicate with our software system, Glance, to allow us to do all the things that we need to do to satisfy the initial need, which is managing the devices in the field, and secondarily grabbing the information and turning that into reports that we'll be talking about today, as well as sharing the information into our Travel Safely connected vehicle platform. So that's something really important about what we wanted to make sure that for those of you that are new today, that you know a little bit more about what Applied Information brings to the systems. I'm going to start off with a very short video. I actually have a couple of short videos that talk about how the on-demand works. And I'll just go ahead and get us kicked off here.
In the report section, generate the hover over the reports, click on Demand Report, and this report will allow us to select from intersections and vehicles for preemption, as well as selecting the date range, the start and the end date. I'm going to select the vehicle, and I'm going to go down, and I know Engine 54 has a run, and we'll click Request Report. Now we'll go back and look at all of the intersections and all the preemptions that Engine 54 has run over the date range. And that date range obviously is just a single day here. So you see here that it's generated the number of intersections that Engine 54 has operated in under preemption conditions, and shows date and time and the intersections again which it was preempting today. So it's a nice tool that will allow the on-demand report. And again, you have the option of selecting either vehicles or intersections as a part of that report to give you dynamic information about all the reports based on the on-demand.
So sometimes it's a little easier for us to kind of capture that.
I'd like to show you
some of this information and share that with you so that it makes it a little bit more concise. As a sales guy, I have a habit from time to time of spending a little bit more time. So just creating a video link on that helps us a little bit more. So here's another video, again, that's going to go a little bit more into the details of the preemption that, again, explains some of the segments here that's a part of each of the Preempt on-demand reports.
I'd like to show you some of the details of the Preempt vehicle report, some of the details that are a part of how we can read the information once the report is generated. So we'll take this first preemption at this first intersection here, and it shows that the preemption began at the 0 time. So that was when the preemption started on the way to the intersection. And it looks like it started out at about a mere little under 300 feet from the distance from the intersection. And the vehicle was traveling at about 7 miles an hour at that particular time that it started. And it was resting in phases 2 and 6 at the intersection. So that's looks like that was kind of maybe the main street greens. In the communication, it was asking for rule number 2 and preempt number 6 output, and had the radio comms of both when it started. About 10 seconds later, it went into a transition. So it was transitioning from resting in 2 and 6 to a rest in 8, which was the preempt direction that it was asking for. So it transitioned in that just a few seconds, and 16 seconds into the request, it was in the phase 8 green for the preemption, and rested that through the 25-second full duration of the preemption. So it shows none. That means that it terminated the preempt call as the vehicle was departing the intersection. So these are some nice ways, again, of getting specific information about distance, speed, direction, ETA, and those kinds of things about how the report is gathering the data to share the information about how each preempt occurred. And
so one of the key things about this is asking, why would I show you this? You know, apart from getting the information, the important part is, again, we have people that call us frequently and ask us about the details of the preemption and how far away. And we also utilize this type of report when commissioning is going on, in order for us to know that both of the radios on the device are functional, and they're also functional within the intersection, and give us specific details about how everything comes along. So this is a really important report as we're kind of looking in to see what's going on with the preemption functionality. So let's transition. Bear with me here. Going to kind of jump into this quickly. All right. All right, here we are. So I've logged us in already to one of our favorite places to go to, and that's Marietta, Georgia. We've had a number of deployments there for quite some time, so they've been gracious enough to allow us to jump in and utilize a number of the things there, just to share with people what they're doing and how we've augmented some things. So what we're going to show today, again, is jumping into the reports area. Reports is a link that's up in the upper right-hand corner of the Glance login. And once we get into this login, everybody that uses Glance, their setup is slightly different. So you'll probably notice as we look through the listing on the report viewer on the left-hand side, Marietta has quite a number of businesses that's a part of their system. They probably have 300 to 400 devices in different groups in different businesses within their system. So we'll probably dance around just a little bit in some of those. I'm going to start off going into their business of Marietta beacons, and you can see that it reduced quite a bit the number of reports that are assigned to that particular business. So most of the reports that are buried in those views are relative to the business that's there. So as I scroll down on the left-hand side, there's fire and intersections and so on. There are reports that are in each of those that are relative to those styles or types of businesses. So one of the areas that I wanted to start off talking about when we're here is really kind of looking at the other parts of what's in the reports. We have already talked about the on-demand reports. I also wanted to highlight that there's a user activity report, and I'll launch that as well. Most of the reports that we have allows us to set up a date range So you can open up and pick dates, a start and an end, and then hit the filter button, which is the magic kaboom button that actually generates the report for the date range that you pick. There's also some windows in here that allows you to focus in on a specific business, and as well, a number of different users that are applied to this particular business. So the other things that we'd like to talk about too is once you generate a report and you want to export it, there's a couple of different formats that will allow us to export in Excel CSV files as well as the PDF files. So what you see is a culmination of all of the activity that users have when logging in there. You can kind of see that there's a cross section of users here from Marietta Beacons to City of Marietta, Fred Neal, Morgan Patterson. A number of people have checked into Marietta to do various things, from just looking at things to generating reports. And so there's a time and a date stamp, the user who was in there, and the levels or the views that they were at and the things they might have generated while they're in there under this activity listing. There's some relative IP addresses from that activity and some time zone activity that's there as well. So this is a great place that if someone asked about, hey, something happened that was an alarm-based function, happened last Friday, you could come back in and pick last Friday and select those dates and then run the filter and allow you to generate that information. So again, this is a nice place to kind of go back and grab archived history to generate a history log of the activity. Another area that allows us to share some information is also the alarm activity. So again, if there was something that happened on a particular date range, we can go back and we'll just go back and pick the 20th and hit the filter. So you can see it reduced the number of listings in there. We pick, again, the April 20th as the report, and there's a variety of different reports, door open reports, network failures, and some things in the field. It's not uncommon for the folks in the region to do checks and tests and things, and so a lot of these locations will report those back in and have a permanent history in there for the things that have happened within the alarm log. So these are really valuable reports that would allow those applications to occur. So I'd like to transition again back into the Marietta Beacons, and we'll go through a few of these as well. What's pretty common is customers will call and ask, hey, somebody said something didn't come on. So one of the things that this gives us the ability to do is go back and check the records of a particular location that might have come on. So we'll go back and I think we're going to look at picking on February the 24th. Much of a need or a usefulness for flashing flashers across the country as a result of what's been going on. So we're going to go back in time a little bit and grab some history date that's more specific to what's going on here. So in this event, again, somebody said, hey, this particular device didn't come on. Can you show me by the data that was generated whether this unit has actually generated some information that shows that it came on? So the process that we went through, again, was to select the location from the listing and then pick the date range that we wanted. And I narrowed it down to kind of from 6 a.m. to the rest of the day. And it shows the series of ons and offs that are relative to that time frame. And this is to the second in reporting back to Glance that the unit reported itself on at 7:15 and 5 seconds and off at 8:15 and 5 seconds. So again, this is another way to confirm that the unit has been engaged to run. It was operated by the central schedule. That's what you see on the end. So that's what drove it to operate. If it was turned on manually locally, it would show something different there as what engaged that to operate. If it was done remotely from the system, it would also show that differently. So there's some specific details to know that it did come on, and the reason it came on was based on the central schedule. So those are some important things to kind of take a look at as well. Some other things that we can do to kind of confirm is the school beacon schedule report. And the Walker School is the one that we just had up. And this is the school schedule that's in each of the devices that were assigned to this particular business. And so just as a confirmation, we just went and looked and saw that those units came on right at 7:15 and off right at 8:15 and so on for the afternoon. They were supposed to do that. Again, this is another way to get some confirmation in utilizing this school beacon schedule report. So again, those are there to allow you to know that this is what it was supposed to do. And then the locations that we had that we had before that on this beacon event log are the ones that are reflective of actually what happened during that time period. So some other areas that I wanted to show you that's pretty important areas is the beacon health report. And many of you that have had the system spend a lot of time early on in the system, and I thought I'd go ahead and open it up and kind of walk through the importance of this particular report. This is a listing again in everyone's user's system. All the beacons will show up here. So in Marietta, they've got some beacons that are DC powered as well as some locations that are AC powered. So all of them are listed here. What I like about this report is it shows that the unit's online, it gives its name, its ID number, and a cross-section of information about the minimum, maximum voltage, and gives us a little bit of an assessment on good, bad, or fair. Now, an important thing to note that just because it says bad on there doesn't necessarily mean that it's not on. It just means that we've detected something that is a cause for some attention. Typically, there's a differentiation between the high and the low of the battery or the voltage output that gives us some indication, and you as the owner of the indication, that it might need some attention. So we're giving some similar information on the solar array voltage output. At night, it goes to 0. And in the max in the afternoon, these look like they kind of max out around 20, 21, 22 volts output from that solar panel. And we've got a designation on all those showing as good. On the right-hand side of this report, it also shows the cell signal strength for each of the locations and gives us some COM reliability that's exhibited here as well. It's important to note that all of the information that's shown here is generated in this particular one, generally every morning. This one is generated at 6:30 a.m. And the information that's shown in this COM reliability column is a culmination of 3 days of data. The rest of it's just been within the last 24 hours. What's important about that is that the devices sometimes reacquire new connection to the cell towers when they're out on the network. That could be because we've detected that we've got a poor connection, a weak connection, or for a variety of reasons just did a reset. It's part of the health aspect of what we're doing to maintain good connectivity to the network. So when that gets reset, we'll see these numbers change, and eventually they trickle back into the green section, which is 98 to 100% of cell signal strength. We also can kind of scroll through here and see that there's a number of locations that will show that might be showing some lamp outs in here. And these are some good areas from a maintenance perspective on afternoons or during the summertime schedule to kind of take a look at some of these and generate some maintenance calls for some of these that are showing to be lamp out from the field side of things. We'll jump back over here, and one of the other things I wanted to show you is there's an AC voltage comparison report. You'll see a number of other reports in here that show as an HTML link for some reports. These are some of my favorites as well, where when we want to take some time to do some maintenance and see something from every location that shows the same graph or the same style graph, we have that as a comparison report. And I'll open this AC voltage report. And this shows all the AC beacon units and their voltage ranges from across the network. So as you kind of look through here, you'll see that they all look pretty much the same, with the exception of this particular location. So this Burris location has kind of a rise fall method to it, but the good part is it's still up, it's still running, it's doing its thing, but it might denote that it might need a little bit of attention. But as you scroll through here, you'll see that they're all doing pretty much the same thing. Some of these all pop up, and you'll see that there's been a little downward spikes and some raises, where in our constantly monitoring segments of these, we'll see that there's an ebb and a flow to the voltage. So when we're looking through here, there's a couple of them that'll pop up here that had some power outages. Here in the south, we've had a number of storms that have come through here over the last week or so, and this is kind of a clear representation of having a little bit of a power outage over a period of time. So if we were seeing this happening consistently at a particular location, again, from a maintenance perspective, it's a nice way for the agencies to kind of jump in there and tighten some settings, make sure that they're working with their local power company to get good, clean power at those locations. I was working a little bit earlier, and I had grabbed a couple others from one of our local friends here, Frisco, Texas, and this is a comparison report. They do a really good job at managing their systems over there. And what was kind of interesting, that as I was looking at this a little bit earlier, this again is a cross section of all of their systems. They're running about 180 locations. All of them are on solar power. But you'll notice on this particular report, there's a lot of up and down movement that's different from some of these. And many of you that live in the Texas area know that we had some pretty wild storms early in the morning. And a lot of this is reflective of all the lightning strikes that were actually charging the solar panel while the lightning strikes were letting loose this morning. So kind of interesting to see some of that in there. And you'll see that as we kind of go through some of these. But again, the whole idea behind this particular report is to be able to scroll through here from a maintenance perspective and just make sure that as a solar panel, they're all outputting roughly about the same peak. You'll see some that look a little bit different. So here's one that we'll kind of point out a little bit. These locations might be subject to either an older dirty panel. It might have been turned. It might be a smaller panel. It might be a little bit different regulator. It might have had trees grow over the top of them. There are a variety of reasons why that you'll see these be a little bit thinner on the peaks than some of these others that might be a little bit wider. But the whole purpose behind having this report is to be able to quickly kind of scroll through there. And again, they have 180 locations, and those pop out pretty quickly when you start looking at some of those. So another valuable tool. One of the other ones that I also grabbed from Frisco is their battery power application. So this one is showing the big batteries that are in the cabinet that actually run the flasher. And forgive me, I was kind of scrolling through there pretty quickly, but the whole idea behind this is, again, all of these are a nice, good green trend line managing here. As long as the heartbeat of this rise and fall of the voltage here stays within this gray bar, everything is really pretty good. Again, it should be pretty easy to kind of look at some of these that look a little bit different. This looks slightly different than others. You see this one kind of peaked out. It's not anything that I'd be worried about, but if I continue to see this particular location, this EM Linux northbound, consistently kind of show me some differences there, it might warrant spending a little bit of time figuring out what that's all about on that particular location. All right. Chris, any other thoughts on your end about what we're looking at here?
I think you're covering it excellently, Jeff. It's just a reminder that these reports are here to help you maintain your systems better and to be more efficient in what you're trying to accomplish out there. The one slide that you had up earlier, Jeff, that showed kind of what the status of the batteries were and what the status of the solar panels are. There are little things that happen from time to time that we've seen specifically down in Florida, where sometimes a battery appears to be going bad and we spend the money to go replace the battery, only to find out that it wasn't the battery that was bad after all, it was the solar panel itself. So having the technology in place to be able to monitor both the battery and the solar panel helps you determine what equipment you need to take out to the location to make the system operate more efficiently. So no, this is great stuff. Thank you.
Yep, cool, thanks. I switched businesses a little bit. We're going to go spend a little bit of time talking about the Marietta intersections. And we'll start off talking with this low AC voltage report. This one's kind of nice. Again, this is talking to the field monitoring units that are in each of the traffic signal intersections. And this is a nice report that breaks down all of the locations and the number of outages they've had. So all these that are listed in these blue tiles are just single outages for each of these intersections. These yellow bars show the durations for each of these locations. And most of them are pretty quick. Most of you that are in the traffic industry know that when there's a power outage, they're usually pretty short, not so sweet. The intersection does its things and generally recovers. Many of you have battery backup devices, so that the drivers likely don't even see what's going on. But this is a way for us to utilize the power of the FMU2 to monitor the AC voltage that's within your cabinet and test and generate reports that show that there's been some power outages. As we look through here, most of these are relatively quick. This first one that's showing was a 34-minute power outage. So again, it's a nice tool. If you have some locations that persistently pop up on these kinds of reports, then it certainly would warrant looking at adding a battery backup device if there isn't one there, or making some connections a little bit tighter on the inbound side of the AC side of things. So it's, again, a nice little tool that would certainly help to show what's going on in the field there. All right. One of the other things that's also nice to kind of take a look at is the intersection health report. And it is exactly like what we saw in the Beacon Health Report. But for those of you that it's a little new to you as well, again, it's going to show that the device is online. It's giving its location name, ID number, and the voltage range on the AC side. And internally, these devices, they all have their internal batteries. So if there is AC power loss, there's an internal battery that will maintain communications on the cellular side of things to let Glance know and provide reports and alerts for people that have those enabled. The other things that you'll see on here is the network status, and the network status should show all good. That is representative of a location that is being utilized for a connected vehicle application and or communication pass-through for connecting to an ATMS. So typically we'll want to see an all good. I'll scroll through here and we'll probably see a few of them that pop up. They'll at least say no Ethernet or no ping. So those are some designations that give our technicians and the agency's technicians some information about whether the IP address has been programmed locally to the controller or whether there's even an Ethernet cable plugged in there. So what happens from time to time, we've all kind of been there where something happens in the middle of the night, you have to replace a controller, you quickly transfer a database to a new controller, put it in there and start running colors. And from time to time, the transfer doesn't include some of those IP address setups for the connected vehicle applications. And so they'll pop up in these sort of ways. Many of the agencies have the ability then to remotely log into those and re-enable those remotely. Those that don't have Ethernet cables in there, they obviously have to show up and take care of those things. It also shows the cell signal strength in a column, and we talked about the COM reliability on that right-hand side. Again, the importance of COM reliability is that's a 3-day window of what we're looking at there on sending data, confirming it's been received, and making sure that everything is kind of addressed in that sort of way. Some other things that I wanted to also transition into is the Preempt intersection report. And that's another one that's shown within the intersections location. This is a nice report that also, again, it relates back to, not surprisingly, the preemption applications. So as the report jumps up, it's going to give all of the locations that by intersection name and when the preempts started and when they ended. As we talked about on the OnDemand report a little bit earlier, this is the same data that's there. So again, it's a nice run through where it gives the date, the time that it started, what vehicle was involved by name and by ID number within Glance, and all the rest of the details on each of the preempts. So if someone needed to come in and find out what was going on, they could run a report. This is already run daily. Again, this one runs early in the morning as well, but they can generate this report and go find out what particular intersections and how many preempts were run in the last 24 hours on that particular location. This one also shows in these particular areas that CobLink is one of the transit signal preemption applications. So there's some nice check-ins that are a part of that can be exhibited as a part of the preemption and priority report controls. So it's some really nice areas to kind of check in on that. All right. There's some others here that I'd like to show you. A couple others that are on the Preempt vehicle health report. And this is specifically on the vehicle side of things. Now, again, those of you that don't have preemption, don't have devices in vehicles on the glance side, probably doesn't apply to you too much, but it's as important to know about what's going on in the vehicles and that they're functioning properly as is on the intersection side. They both have to work together in conjunction, obviously, to provide a preemption. And what this particular report shows is, we'll look at this pickup truck 501. What it shows is for the last 7 days, it's had a preempt request that is occurred in 16 intersections, again, over the last 7 days. And this is a breakdown on whether they use cell or radio or both in the designation. We saw that in a couple of different places with the OnDemand report and the intersection report, and how many times they've turned on and off, whether they've done priority request, which is doing preemption request, which is 31 service requests. And there's a number of posts, almost 6,000 posts. So what this helps us determine is that the vehicle is set up, it's functioning, the people are using left and right turn signals, so we can see that as a part of what's going on. So it all helps to do the assurance that either through commissioning brand new setups or just reviewing the operation from a maintenance perspective, that all of these vehicles are set up and doing what they're supposed to do. Now, it is possible that the vehicle doesn't get used quite as much, and you can see there's a ladder that's a reserve unit that hasn't done any preempting in the last 7 days, but it's had a little bit of activity and just turning the key on and doing some checks. And looks like it's logged in a little bit of a priority request there, but didn't actually go through an intersection on this particular run. So it's likely they were just doing an equipment check as a part of that. So again, really valuable tools here to allow these views to kind of confirm again that the units are online, that they're actually doing some things, and that all of the functions that we're monitoring, the key on, the power, the activations of the left and the right turn signal, and even some of the resets on some of those things will help us determine whether that it's wired properly or not. So those are some really important things to kind of take a look at. I think Chris has some things that he wanted to kind of transition into as a part of our program day here today. So I'm going to hand over control. He's going to show you share some information with you about one of his actions where somebody called and said, "Hey, what's going on with this situation?"
Thanks for that, Jeff. Let's see. All right. So we're sharing our screen. I want to jump over here to this slide. So Jeff took you through earlier and showed you how to find on-demand reports, how to filter out the date specifically that you're looking for. And I want to take you through something that happened recently with a customer. For everyone who's responsible for maintaining equipment, making sure that it's all functioning properly, especially whenever we're talking about emergency vehicle preemption systems, this is valuable information that can help you solve a problem very quickly. So let's say that you get a phone call one day from your fire department and they say to you, "Hey, we're not getting green lights when we go through this one particular intersection." And so you can ask them some specific questions. What time of the day is this happening? How often is it happening? And then you can go and pull these on-demand reports. So we pulled one here from a scenario like this that has recently happened. and we happen to be looking at Orange Beach, Alabama. And in this particular situation, the customer or the fire department contacted and said, hey, we're not getting our green lights. And so we pull this report, and the direction of travel that this one particular vehicle is headed to, he should always be getting a phase 4 green whenever he gets to the intersection. So no matter where the signal is in its cycle, when the preempt request comes in, he should get a phase 4 green. All of the equipment that's installed in the field has what we call a green sense harness inside, and it's installed in the traffic cabinet, and then that tells us exactly what the greens are doing during the cycle. So in this particular situation, if you look, this rescue 1 was approaching this intersection, and as Jeff kind of took you through the way that you see how a preempt occurs, we can see that initially whenever the call came in, the light was already green in the direction that he was wanting to travel. But as he got closer to the intersection, what happened? It actually cycled and went to phases 2 and 6, which means he would have entered the intersection on a red, not what he wants. If we look on down a little bit further, like here's another one. In this location, he happened to be, or at the same location as he's passing through. When he gets the call that comes in, he's in phase 2 and 6, and then it goes to 4. So fortunately, in this situation, he got the green light. But what we found out later by doing some investigating work using these reports is that the controller is actually cycling during the time that we thought it was supposed to be giving a green light. And so through a little investigation, we discovered that what happened was at some point a few weeks back, there was a situation with the traffic controller. I don't know whether it's hit by lightning, it quit working. A technician went out, they replaced the controller, and unfortunately they did not create the patterns for preemption inputs to come in. And so even though the vehicle is sending the message to the intersection, and even though the device in the intersection is identifying it and authorizing the green light, he still wasn't getting his green light. And the reason was the traffic controller was not providing that. So again, just a quick way of looking and utilizing these reports to help you determine what's going on and what steps you need to take in order to solve a problem. The other thing that I wanted to show you is these are a couple of driver feedback signs in Florida, and we want to go through some of the reports that are available. So the first thing I want to do is just zoom in here and kind of show you what's something that's really kind of cool. Jeff and I were talking about this earlier. These are these 2 driver feedback signs on the Florida Turnpike. And so we can come in here and we can see where these signs are at, but then I can bring my little Google man over here and drop him in, and we can see as we're approaching this road where our signs are. So we actually have signs that are mounted on this post and signs that are mounted on this post. So that's where those devices are located. And then if we get out of this and go over to our reports, I've already pulled the report here just in an effort to save a little bit of time. But this is one of the driver feedback reports that you're able to see. And this is showing for the reports are going to come to you daily. And this one was from the 1st of April to the 28th of April. So we'll run them for an entire month. And then at the end of the month, you'll have that one file that shows all that information. And then say May 1st, you're going to start a new file. So you won't see all of this information here, just day 1. And as each day populates that information, you'll get a new report that'll fill it out for the month. And this on this one, we're looking at daily averages. So you can see each day we're collecting the daily average of median speed, 85th percentile speed, and 95th percentile speed, as well as volume. Additionally, you can also just kind of get a glance and get an idea of what that information looks like as far as speeds here. So we can look and see over the course of from April 1 all the way to April 28th, just what our speeds are typically doing on average. Then the really cool thing that we added is this heat map. And what this heat map shows you is just at a glance to be able to look at this and kind of get an idea of what's going on out there. So if I'm looking at this, I can see that Sundays, here's a Sunday just looking across. Let's drop down to another Sunday. See how the red is going all the way across. So on Sundays, these vehicles are traveling a little bit faster than they do during the course of the week. So it's just really a quick way of looking to see when your higher speeds are occurring out there. Also, the 85th percentile you can see. Same thing with the 85th percentile. You can look across and see what's happening. When are the higher times versus the lower times? And we can look at our volume just quickly and see what's happening there. And then you drop down to this. This is a really cool slide because you can see volume-wise, it appears that people in this area go to work really early in the morning, about 5 a.m., and they get off early, somewhere around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, you can see that the volume is really starting to drop off here. So these heat maps just do a really good job of identifying very quickly at a glance what is the information that you want to see, where are my high speeder points, where are my volume issues, and so you can look at that information. Here we have 95th percentile, same sort of thing. So these are all of the information that's being collected. And then we drop to the next intersection or the next device. So this report there are only 2 devices at this particular location, but that's the kind of information that you can get. I am going to turn this back over now to Mr. O'Brien.
Thanks, Chris. Well, we've come to the end of our section where we were planning on working some of the reports and covering some of the reports. So as promised, at the end, here's the Q&A section. So Jessica, do we have any questions that Chris and I need to help to address?
Yeah, we have one so far, and it's asking if you see a problem in the reports, how would you look at an individual device? So Jeff, I don't know if you want to hop in and show them how to do that.
You bet. I'll jump right in here. So we've got Marietta still pulled up, and in the reports that we had earlier, we were showing a number of different things. And for example, if there was one of the locations that had, we saw a little bit of a spike or a dip in voltage in one of these. If we had seen that the batteries were really low, those units or those locations, those reports have some dynamic links in them. One of the things that we can do is, and again, just kind of type into any of these locations, just remembering the name and just start typing in something, and it'll kind of focus down, and we can kind of jump into these. Now we earlier pulled up this Walker location, and again, I just started typing the AL. It's going to spin a little bit and pull it back up. So that brings us quickly into a level 2 view. And that lets us start looking a little bit more deeply into the things that are kind of going on for that particular location. So it's an important thing to be able to utilize the big picture tools, those reports, and find the ones that are the anomalies, and then dynamically link those back into these level 2 views. And again, it's getting away from the reports, but these are the areas that bring that specific information back and allow you to kind of jump in and grab some of the information on the side and see that these devices have been on, that the voltage is still there, that it's been relatively consistent over time, and showing some of the beacon applications, and again, just kind of jumping through there. Some other things that it would allow you to do as well is review the status of the device, that it's actually set to schedule, the holidays and things that were set there, and jump in more details. Again, we're getting a little further away from the report side of things, getting into this level 3 view, but this is another area where we start getting into the specific details of the time and date by second and all the functional things that are going on within the location, checking that it's check-in, that it's locked, GPS status, the cell signal strength, and a number of the details there. And again, as we mentioned earlier in this session, you can whittle that down to a specific period of time. One other area that's kind of nice, Chris and I were talking about this yesterday. We want to remind you that in looking at this, if you find that you've got 2 pages or multiple pages there's a little drop down window down here that will allow you to select up to 200 of the last sets of entries. So it will change the page view so you can see as many of the line entries as you can to let you go over time to kind of see some of that. So that's another nice way of kind of managing what you're looking at and utilizing the anomaly things that you see in the reports to go back and drill down specifically into each of the locations to get the data.
Awesome.
Hey, Jeff, just to add there real quickly, we have some amazing sales engineers that are supporting our customers out there. Jeff Riggs out west, Freddie Neal in the central, and Mike Slavic on the east. And usually whenever you call those guys with an issue that you're wanting to discover, one of the first questions that they always ask is, what's the ID? And so as you were just kind of showing there and hovering over a device, if you look up at the top there, it shows what that device ID number is. So that's just a quick and easy way to find that information and be ready whenever you call those guys for help, because that is a question that they're going to ask you.
Yep, good to point out there, Chris. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so this question is regarding some of the statuses that we're showing in some of the reports you guys were sharing with us. And it says, what does no spat mean or under network status? Can you explain what would contribute to those statuses?
Yeah, Chris, you want to take that or you want me to do it?
Yeah, no spat. That information, the traffic controller has the ability to put out signal phase and timing data, and we use that for connected vehicle applications. So all that is showing you is whether that controller is currently sending that information to our device for us to read, or it's not sending that information. As Jeff pointed out, whenever he was going through those reports and showing what those things mean, he mentioned that it could be maybe an Ethernet cable didn't get plugged in, or maybe the controller doesn't have its SPAT data turned on, but it's specifically for connected vehicle applications.
And typically that means that we are connected to the controller. Typically we know that there is a connection there. So there's a specific piece of data we're looking for, which Chris indicated, the SPAT, the signal phase and timing data. It's not present. So we can distinguish that, yeah, we're getting everything else, getting what we're supposed to be getting with the exception of the SPAT. So it gives us the ability to designate that as a no SPAT. So it gives us very specific information. And that again goes back to being able to set that up on the controller to issue that SPAT detail to our device. Good question.
All right. We have someone asking, can these reports be automated and sent to people, or do I have to manually go and look?
Yeah, another good question. That's another thing that Chris mentioned, our crack engineering sales support folks. They are great resources for getting those set up. You can certainly channel those through us on the sales team, including folks like Jess. But ultimately, it's those folks that'll be setting those up, and they can set those up to receive weekly or daily or however you'd like to do that. Just drop us a line and let us know what you'd like to get and the frequency that you'd like to get it at and the number of email addresses that you'd like that to go to. So pretty easy to do.
Awesome.
I think just as a follow-up to that, what I like about how we deal with businesses, we have much more of a concierge style of support. And we've got some great people to kind of help manage some of those things. So in conventional systems, you kind of have to go dig in and finding things and try to look for ways to kind of set those things up. And the beautiful part about our frictionless delivery side of things is using that as a service and getting to talk to people and sending us a note, making a phone call and getting those things set up and making that process so much easier on you. And that's really part of our product design and our system design. So I'm real proud about that part from Applied Information.
Awesome. And then lastly, we have our couple last questions. Chris, this is for you. And someone is asking, what type of device were you using in the Florida Turnpike? Great
question. So we use our beacons for driver feedback signs. One of the things that we are able to do is connect into those driver feedback signs. There's currently 3 different manufacturers that we're working with. I can't tell you specifically what manufacturer is there in Florida on the turnpike, but there's a gentleman in that area. His name is Sheldon Pafford, and I'll be happy to put you in touch with him. If you just want to send us your contact information, we can get you in touch with the right people down there to answer that question for you.
All right. And then lastly, someone is asking, what happens if I don't find the report that you've been showing in my Glance system? So what if they don't have that report yet? How do they get it?
Another great question. I can answer that one as well. So the way that you do that is contact your representative, your distributor representative, or you can contact one of us, Jeff or myself, as the outside salespeople, or you can contact the sales engineers that we mentioned earlier, and just let them know that you're not seeing that particular report in your business and you would like to have that added, and they can get that turned on for you pretty quickly.
Yeah, one of the beneficial things that we have, we're more than 50% of us are engineers and are very proficient at writing code and generating some really neat reports. And so from time to time, Chris and I will go in there and we'll find new styles and more improved reports. So it's a constantly and ever improving process that our folks are doing to kind of help not only us in generating the data, but more importantly, making sure that our customers, our end users, are getting the kind of information that they need. So pretty excited about that. So many of you will probably see that there's been some modifications and migrations and improvements in a lot of these reports since some of the longstanding customers of ours. So we're excited to see that part as well.
Hey, Jess, just real quickly, for our good friend who asked the question about what those devices were, driver feedback signs there, our good friend Sheldon has already responded by sending me a text and wants them to know those are IDC signs. Specifically, the model is an SC15. There you go. Carmana Speed Check.
That is some efficient service right there from Sheldon.
That's those great distributors that we work with. That's what
I'm saying. And Jeff, you kind of alluded to it there with your last answer, but can we make custom reports for our customers in Glance?
Yeah, those are the kinds of things we like to integrate with a number of our folks and have that discussion. It's again, having so many engineers around supporting what we do. If there's something that we like to tweak, something like to change, or something to create brand new, we collect so much data. I use the phrase mathematics gymnastics from time to time when we're doing presentations. And truthfully, our guys are brilliant at generating those kinds of things. So that's a long answer to say, if a report that you're looking for doesn't exist, give one of us a call. We'll sit down and ask you what you're looking for, how you want it to look. And if there's data that supports those kinds of reports, we'd love to sit down and put something together for you and see if we can't satisfy what you're looking for.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we are available, whether that's Peter or our fantastic business developers, Jeff and Chris, are available for private classes or webinars to help your team learn more, especially during this time while we're at home. If you guys want more information on how to read those reports, reach out to us or email training@appinfoinc.com and we can help get this set up for you. All right, gentlemen, I think that's it for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Jess, thanks for hosting and helping us along. And Chris, appreciate your assistance today.
Likewise, everyone.